Hi everybody, Ian Vair here, and we are in the woods again in upstate New York on the border of Vermont, and we have located some golden chanterelle. These are a choice edible. They come up annually, usually in July, and depending on the weather, they can be in patches in prolific quantity, and some years scarce. This happens to be a year that they're fairly scarce. Last year, I kept having to pinch myself. I was in awe of my surroundings because I was around thousands of them. This year, it's been here and there. So, the golden chanterelle. This was the first edible wild mushroom that I ever consumed, and it was a little scary for me. This was over a decade ago, and I was nervous because my mushroom Bible, my National Audubon Society field guide to North American mushrooms, states specifically in the cross-reference section, when I go into this little guy here, golden chanterelle, choice with caution. So, choice with caution. What does that mean? Well, it means different things with different fungus and different mushrooms. For this particular mushroom, and before I get into that, I do want to say that every mushroom is a little different, and there are similar and also separate parameters to help identify that species. So for me, once I felt comfortable enough with the tree that it's growing under, the pine trees, and the time of year, and the gill structure, and the descending nature of the gills, and the way they fork, out at the end of the cap, the fruity aroma of them, I decided it was time. I took a spore print, and that worked out for me because that was the last defining measure that I needed. Now, the caution. What's the caution? What's that about? Well, there is a look-alike listed in the book called a jack-o'-lantern. And that's kind of scary, jack-o'-lantern. I'd never found one. I didn't have anything to compare it to. All I knew was that I had these little yellow beauties all over the place, and I wanted to eat them, and there was lots of them, but I was afraid. But I was comfortable because I had a mentor that I collaborated with. I was very well studied in the books that have enabled me to identify mushrooms as well as I can today. So I took the plunge. Years later, I found jack-o'-lanterns, and now the difference between the jack-o'-lantern mushroom and the golden chanterelle is like going to the grocery store and saying, that's a tomato and that's a radish. You'd never mess it up. You forever and ever, because there's different parameters, okay? So that's kind of what happened to me. But when I ate this guy, I'm a chef, and my former career was as a working executive chef, and working with flavors is something that I enjoy doing. Now, when I first found a chanterelle, and we have a few of them here today, okay? And I want to use these just as a nice example of what kind of trees they're going to be under. Frequently in pine needle litter, you're going to find these happen to be white pines. They really like pine trees. Also oaks, but I find them. Usually I source the pine tree, and then I find the chanterelle. So that's where we are today. I like to trim them, not just pull them, the mushroom out of the ground and disturb their mycelium, their roots underneath the fruit here. So I'm going to trim it low to the ground, to the base of the stem. And this first one happens to be just a little baby guy. Okay, there's only a few of them here today, but the essence is of apricot or peach. It's quite lovely. It's unlike a button mushroom or a portobello mushroom that you'll find in the grocery store, or shiitake mushroom, none of which I'm incredibly fond of. I'm a bit of a snob these days because I get to find all this cool stuff out in the woods now. Smells wonderful. I'm looking at the stalk, and it's descending. It descends about halfway down the stem. When I look up at the tips around the edge of the cap, it's forked as opposed to going straight up into the cap, okay? Not really shiny, even with the moisture that we've had in the past few days. More velvety. I think velvety is a nice description. And you see how the gills are coming halfway down the stem there. And up at the top, I don't know if we can focus in on that or not, but they do fork just at the top. All right? Gill structure's correct. It's descending. There's no veil present at all. Okay, these are all defining specifications. Correct tree, correct time of year, smells wonderful. I'm not going to complete it with a spore print at home because I'm 110% sure that it is what it is. And the chef in me likes to do a lot of things with these. They're wonderful. You know what's odd about this mushroom and my history with mushrooms is I personally wouldn't actually eat a mushroom. I didn't like them. I didn't like the texture of them. And when I learned about the chanterelle, it didn't feel in my mouth like other mushrooms had in the past. It was more like meat. Say if I was a vegan, if I had something like this, it would be an unbelievable substitute. Unbelievable. So it was much more fibrous, it was much more enjoyable in my palate. The flavor wasn't musty, it was almost sweet. So these are great, breaded up and fried. They're wonderful in a pasta. They're incredible in a butter and wine sauce over steak. Many things can be done with a chanterelle mushroom. And for this mushroom expert, my National Audubon Society field guide has guided me through the weeds, through the forest, into the kitchen. It's taken fears away from me. It's given me the ability to have a business and educate and use mushrooms in all manner, in all capacities. So this is really great stuff. This is really great information that can be found right online. You can get one of these online for less than $15. You can buy them used for probably less than that. So what this book is a manual to locate choice edible mushrooms. There are so many. There are dozens and dozens and dozens. It's unbelievable. Deadly mushrooms. I want to know what those ones are. I'm not going to mess with them, but I need to know what they are because I'm ruling out specific organisms to make sure that I'm picking the right ones. So for this mushroom expert, it's not just about making my mouth feel good. It's about learning what's good and what's not, and being safe, and finding food, and creating medicine. And what's amazing is Jim and I could sit here and talk about dozens and dozens and dozens of individual species, and hopefully we will. Maybe we will. Tune in. Let's see what we find. We have the rest of the fall. We have the rest of the fall to explore, to enjoy, to have fun. We're exercising out in the woods. What better way to exercise than to get out and do something that you love? So it's really wonderful. Our hope is that more people are going to be interested in this subject, and more people are going to be educated on this subject. I myself offer various wild mushroom foraging workshops and cooking classes. That's a totally separate entity from this and is all local. And what I'm really hoping that this is going to do is reach the masses. So